Some of you may know by following me on Instagram or Twitter that I live in Colorado. Thankfully, Colorado is known for having a ton of scary and mysterious locations, which is why I decided to make a new series about Colorado so I can explore these locations and share my experience with you guys. I recently got my first car, an orange Subaru Crosstrek. It's a great car for the snow and different types of terrain. Quick side note, did you guys notice the cool hidden files sticker I have on my car? I'm actually planning on giving 3 of these away to some of you guys. Well, that's when this whole thing is over. I'll announce details about how to join the giveaway on my Instagram, so if you're not following me on Instagram, now's a good time to do it. The link is in the description. Quick shout out to Jason. Thanks for watching the videos. If you would like a shout out in the next video, don't forget to leave a comment. Lastly, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like, and leave a comment about any stories you have, the video, or just to say hi. I try to respond to every single comment, and you guys have no idea how happy it makes me when I see you guys interacting in the comment section. Without further ado, sit back and enjoy. Hidden in one of Denver's upscale neighborhoods sits what is currently known as Cheesman Park, one of the most haunted locations in Colorado. In November 1858, General William Larimer, the founder of Denver, Colorado, set aside 320 acres of land to be designated as the city cemetery. At the time, in the mid-1800s, it was called Mount Prospect Cemetery and was divided up by social status. The city's most influential and wealthy citizens had the best location, while the outer edges were reserved for the poor and criminals. The first person to have been buried at the cemetery was due to a lung infection, followed by a Hungarian immigrant named John Stoefel. On April 7, 1859, after trying to settle a dispute with his brother-in-law over gold, he ended up shooting his brother-in-law and was soon convicted for murder and got hung from a tree only a few days later on April 9, 1859. It didn't take long for the cemetery to be filling up with outlaws, faster than noble citizens, which prompted Larimer to bury the wealthy at another nearby cemetery known as the Fairmount Cemetery, a place that also has its fair share of spooky stuff and interesting history. If you would like for me to make a video about the Fairmount Cemetery, leave a like and a comment and I'll explore it. In 1866, Larimer left Denver and Mount Prospect was claimed by John Wally, who reported a total of 626 graves at the time. He also did a terrible job of maintaining the property, as some headstones were toppled over and graves were constantly vandalized. By the late 1880s, the cemetery was in terrible condition and was rarely used as it fell into worse disrepair. It didn't take much longer for a Colorado senator to convince the U.S. Congress to allow the graveyard to be converted into a park. On January 1890, the cemetery was now called Congress Park. Now, let's get into the scary part of the park's history. After being designated as a park, families had 90 days to relocate their loved ones. When a majority of the bodies remained unclaimed, the city of Denver contracted undertaker E.P. McGovern to remove and relocate the remains in 1893. He was paid $1.90 for each body that he relocated, a whopping $54.49 in today's money. He began the gruesome work on March 14, 1893, not long before gaining an audience of curious onlookers from around the city. Soon, McGovern became greedy and found a way to make even more money from his efforts. Instead of using larger, more expensive coffins, he used children-sized coffins that were 3.5 feet long. In order to fit adults into the children-sized coffins, he would hack the bodies up into smaller pieces and stuff them as much as he could. Soon he realized he could get away with putting single body parts in coffins, like fingers, torsos, arms, heads, and legs. In some cases, one human body would fit into 3 coffins, allowing him to earn $5.70 per person, or $163 per person compared to $54 in today's money. McGovern didn't care at all about the mess he was creating or the graves he was disturbing. On March 19, 1893, the Denver Republican newspaper wrote an article about his work called The Work of Ghouls, in which they described in chilling detail how McGovern would hack the bodies up into smaller pieces and stuff them into smaller boxes, while leaving bones, limbs, and heads scattered around for everyone to see. The article described the scene like this. The line of desecrated graves at the southern boundary of the cemetery sickened and horrified everybody. Around the edges were piled broken coffins, rent and tattered shrouds of fragments of clothing that had been torn from bodies, all trampled into the ground by the footsteps of the gravediggers like reheated junk. It wasn't long until McGovern was fired, and the city of Denver took matters into their own hands. In 1894, grading and leveling began, and open graves were filled with trees and shrubs, which are still there to this day. In 1909, Mrs. Cheesman donated the marble pavilion in memory of Walter Cheesman, with the one condition that the park be renamed Cheesman Park. The name and the pavilion continue to stand to this day. Today, an estimated 2,000 bodies still remain buried in the park. So we begin our trip to Cheesman Park. We pass by this guy doing some cool tricks on his bike. Check out this sick trick. As you can see, we made it to Cheesman Park. Here are a lot of trees, and if you remember, a lot of the open graves were filled with trees in 1894, over 126 years ago. I can't help but think that right here where I'm walking is where some people were put to rest, until E.P. McGovern and his workers disrupted their resting places. It's scary to imagine the park from this perspective, with dug up holes, limbs, and other body parts scattered everywhere. But today, here's what it looks like. To be honest, this park gives off a weird vibe. It kind of feels like the people you see walking around aren't actual people. The way they walk and interact with each other reminds me of a simulation or something. I don't know if that makes sense. At this point, you can see we're making our way toward the pavilion that was donated by Mrs. Walter in 1909. Even after 111 years, the structure is still beautiful and in very good condition. I'll walk closer to it in the next clip for you guys to see. While I was walking around there, I noticed this memorial structure. I'm not sure if these are the names of some of the people that were buried here, or people who donated to the park. I tried doing some research on the structure, but I haven't found anything, which is kind of weird. Here I am inside the pavilion overlooking the city of Denver and the rest of the park. It's pretty peaceful here. In the spring and summer, you can hear birds chirping and people skating and having fun. Unfortunately, while I was here, it was kind of snowy and it was still pretty cold. Inside the pavilion, we found this hole. I believe this hole is about 50 to 80 feet deep. It was extremely dark inside and the camera couldn't see to the bottom of the pit. I kind of want to go in there. At this point, I was getting hungry and wanted the sun to go down so I could come back during the night. But then I heard this. Did you hear that? It sounded like a woman yelling right in front of me in the distance, and then you hear it again even louder behind me. I did not add this sound effect while I was editing. I actually got scared when I heard it and looked for the source, but I didn't see anything. I also zoomed into the people in the distance, and they didn't seem to notice the scream at all. So maybe I was the only one who heard it? Thankfully, I was able to capture it on my phone. Let me know in the comments what you think that sound was. After hearing this noise, my car's navigation system started to malfunction. Kind of weird. Anyway, at this point, I drove by the pavilion while the sun was setting so you guys could see. I don't know, there's something about the way it reveals itself around the corner that seems pretty eerie. When we came back, It was pitch black besides the lights that illuminate the pavilion and the sidewalks. Right here, I thought I heard someone behind me. I turned quickly and I didn't see anything. Then I started hearing voices in the distance, but didn't find anyone. Right here in this part, the audio mysteriously stopped working when I tried looking at the car that was driving by. It was the only sign of life other than myself. I went back into the pavilion to show you guys how beautiful it looks at night. I can't believe it's held up this nicely after so much time. As I was walking back to my car, I found this really strange tree. Then the audio cut off again. I noticed there was a lot of hot spots where stuff like electronic malfunctions occurred, like my car, my audio, and sometimes my phone. I started to hear some weird noises, like people talking and walking near me, but I wasn't sure if I was just my mind playing tricks on me. I read about a story from someone that lives nearby that came here at night with a friend to smoke a cigarette and talk about work and other things. Then out of nowhere, they kept hearing chains jingling in the distance. Then they saw a tall, pale man dressed in a shredded hospital gown, covered in blood, that kept asking, "Did you see them?" The two guys were confused and asked who. He said, "The ones who did this to me. They stabbed me 15 times. He showed the guys the wounds, and he walked away, saying, "I'm going to get them." He vanished into the darkness. They tried to look for him, but they didn't find a single trace of him. No bloodstains, no tracks, nothing. If you noticed something I didn't, please leave a comment, and also let me know if I should explore the Fairmount Cemetery. They have some very interesting people there, including the woman who named the Ouija board. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and leave a comment. If you would like to learn more about the park, I left some links in the description, and if you would like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter to see what I'm up to, follow me at Hidden Files YT. Thanks for watching. See you next time.